Kinda Funny membership drive is happening. To celebrate, we put up 2 formerly exclusive Gregways over the weekend, and we're now letting everyone enjoy your membership exclusive call-ins for weekly happy hours. If you love what we do and haven't supported in a while, come on back for August and pitch in on patreon.com/kindafunny or youtube.com/kindafunnygames with your Kinda Funny membership.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Screencast. Today, we're going to be talking about Alien Romulus. I'm your host, Nick Scarpino, alongside Snowbike Mike.
The Alien Hunter. That's my guy.
What about me?
and Roger Pagordi.
That's my guy.
Okay, there we go. There we go. I'm his guy, everybody.
Right there. Just so everyone knows, we are going to do, this is a spoiler-free Screencast. We're going to give our impressions, maybe rate this film, but we're going to try not to get into any spoiler territories because the movie is officially out today. We saw this movie this week, and we were all varying degrees of excited to see it. We had a great experience, but so we're going to try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible because I know there's some people watching the live chat that probably have not seen it, given that it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday. Shout out to our Patreon producers before we get into it. Carl Jacobs, Nathan Lamoth, Alex J. Sandoval, James Hastings, Casey Andrew. It is Patreon Pledge Month. If you guys want to get out there and support us, we'd very much appreciate it. Today, of course, we're brought to you by Monster Hunter Now, but we'll talk about them in just a little bit. Gentlemen.
Hi.
Alien Romulus. Directed by Fede Alvarez, starring Kaylee Spaney, I believe is how you say her last name, David Johnson and Archie Renault, a couple other people starring this that we won't necessarily spoil for you. Written by Fede Alvarez, Rodo Seaguez, and Dan O'Bannon, who I think is just a legacy writer from Alien and Aliens. He was one of the original writers there, so I'm not sure how much he had to do with the script. I think it's just based on like stuff that is happening there. Sure. And of course, cinematography by Gallo Olivares, who I'm not familiar with, but did Gretel and Hansel, which is a fun movie.
Was that the one with Jeremy Renner?
No, I think that was a different film. This one, I think it was like
right?
No, that's Hansel and Gretel. This is Gretel and Hansel.
Yeah, I think
those are 2 different.
Yeah,
movies.
this one I think is like a
Oh, more serious. Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's like a more serious version of it. Yeah. Okay. And the music was from Benjamin Wallfish, who was one of the composers on Blade Runner 2049 and It. The reason I bring up Gallo, the cinematographer, is because that's one of the highlights for this movie for me. Was I thought it was very beautifully shot, and the production design was wonderful. Made, of course, on a budget of $80 million before marketing costs, and it is projected right now. We don't have any numbers, but it's projected to do anything between 28 million and somewhere around 45 to 50 million for its opening weekend.
Do we have a budget?
Well, it does. The budget was $80 million.
$80 million. Okay.
How much was Borderlands' budget?
Borderlands was $120 million with $30 million for what they call P&A, which is prints and advertising. So all told, Borderlands might have topped somewhere between 140, 150 million dollars all in. This movie, who knows? We don't know what it's going to do for advertising. I hope they put a lot. I wrote my little comment card when we saw. I was like, put my money behind this for advertising because I think more people need to see this film. But it is crazy to start thinking about the 2 differences with those movies. How this movie had by a wide margin, less money put into it. And the results are slightly different.
The original plan, or at least I remember the release strategy for this, was going to be a Hulu film, which was very interesting because it does not feel like that at all. I wonder what moment was that change? Was that pre-production? Was that, hey, we're just going to make it for this amount of money. It's always going to look like this, but we're just going to throw it on Hulu. Maybe it's that was when they didn't really trust theaters at that point. But
maybe.
Either way.
Prey came out on Hulu, and it was
exactly
for what the budget was for that film. It was well done.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that this movie would not have done so well on that type of budget. I mean, with Prey, you're dealing with basically one predator. In this, you have to really recreate the entire environment. This feels like an Alien movie, and I would not have suspected it would be anything but a theatrical release film.
Yeah.
Roger.
Hi.
Let's start with you.
Hi, everybody.
Spoiler-free impressions. What were your spoiler-free impressions of Alien Romulus?
Yeah, I had the distinct pleasure and honor of being able to watch the first Alien movie, my first real Alien movie. I've seen Alien versus Predator back in the day, who hasn't ran on the Sci-Fi Channel? But the first Alien movie, the original, I think it's the 40th anniversary this year. They played around in theaters around the country. I watched at the Alamo Draft House, packed a few weeks ago, actually probably a month ago now, with a bunch of my friends and people that had not seen it before in that theater, including myself. And that was one of the best experiences that I could have ever had in a film. So I watched that, watched Aliens right after that, enjoyed Aliens, didn't love it as much as Alien.
Crazy.
So then leading into Alien Romulus, the top most excited movie of the summer, and man, blew my fucking mind. I could not believe what they were doing in this film, and I think there's a great conversation to be had because, Mike, you had not seen the original Aliens, but this is very reminiscent of the original Alien, of the first Alien. Some people see it as like almost a reboot or remake in a lot of senses, but I think instead of looking at it like that, I saw it more of, hey, we're just building we're building off of this amazing foundation. We're getting back to basics, to fundamentals, and we're putting our own sauce onto it. And the way that this movie ends, I can't stop thinking about it. It has literally given me nightmares. I'm not a person that is scared by movies very easily, but I talk about it all the time with Leanza, who watched it with me. She looks at me and we just kind of look at each other sometimes and we're just staring off in the distance. And she says, no one's seen this movie yet, and that ending is going to change people. And I'm so excited because I'm watching it again this Friday, and I don't do that usually. But I'm like, I need to watch this with a group of people because I need to see their reactions to this. I was blown away by the characters. I was blown away by the pacing of it. The effects are incredible, and it is a true return to form for the franchise. I'm excited for what they do. I would give this movie a 9 out of 10. Honestly, like I am hesitant because I want to give it to a 10 out of 10, but I'm like, I need to watch it again. I need to watch it one more time. But like my initial reactions walking out of that, I was like, that might be a perfect film. Like I had such a great time. It was a wild ride for sure.
We did have a cheat code there, though. To be fair, we had an IMAX theater pretty much all to ourselves.
Yes, that was an absolute cheat code.
It was amazing. And
it was an incredible
experience.
experience.
So for people, we're obviously blessed. We get press screeners every once in a while for this, but sometimes the press screeners are filled with they'll fill the theater with some people who just signed up for a list. So they got press in the back and then general audiences up front. But in this one, it was maybe 10 people.
And we were dead in the middle. We were dead in the middle.
It
took my entire peripheral vision, this entire movie.
Which blew me away too, because I'm like, obviously want IMAX, and I didn't read any technical specs before coming into this. I was like, I don't know, was it shot on 70 millimeters, shot on IMAX? The fact that we saw it in sort of that 4:3 IMAX format, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this because I'm such a dork when it comes to I want the 2:3:9 aspect ratio, which is being shown in most theaters. If you go see it in Dolby, I'm sure you're going to get it there. But with IMAX, I'm like, this actually really, really works for this because it kind of felt like an older movie. It felt like a movie from the 80s and 70s, and I was into it. But Mike, what did you think of Alien Romulus?
Nick, this movie absolutely ruled. I had so much fun at this movie. And it's one of those, when you see the shots, we talk about the cinematography, we talk about the tone, the music, the whole world that they've created and built off of into this, is like, oh, cinema's back, right? Like, this is what you believe in, because we have come hot off of a weekend of Borderlands, the movie, into this, where you question, what are we doing?
We also just watched Twisters, too.
And then you see this, and you're like, oh, this is what could be done. This is the Dune of my life, right? This is those movies where you're like, oh, wow, there are people behind the camera who have the vision and nail it. And that's what this was. It was so much fun, and it was scary. It was enjoyable. It was thrilling. Like, there's action sequences in this that were awesome. There are scares in this that kept me on the edge of my seat. There is silence where I go, oh, my God, is anyone going to speak right now? What the heck is happening? And so, I loved this movie. I can't wait for us to go a little bit deeper. And I know we're not going to spoil anything on this, but I had a really great time at the theaters, especially as someone, as Roger brought up, right? I started with AVP, right? And then I've gone into Prometheus and Covenant, right? So I haven't seen the first four. I grew up with Alien versus Predator and onward. So it's for me, I don't get the callbacks, but I understand the callbacks. But when you see that world, it's like when we saw Blade Runner, and you go, man, look at this imagined world come to life. I want to be there, or I can feel what these people are going through. It's really dope.
I'm right there with you guys. Alien Romulus rocked. This movie was so much fun to watch in theaters, and I urge everyone to go out and see theaters. I would give it legitimately an 8.5 out of 10. I think it is a solid entry into the Alien franchise. I think that they did so much right in this. The production design is stunning. The cast is great. The way it's shot is great. Everything looks and feels real. And I know that Fede Alvarez really wanted to go back. He actually tapped some of the effects teams that worked on the original Aliens and Aliens and some of the Predator movies to go back and make everything feel like it was real in this space. It worked very, very well. I was blown away by this. Had a great time with it. Minor criticisms here and there that we can get into a little bit
sure.
when and if we spoil the film. But overall, this is exactly what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to sort of be a solid traditional entry into the Alien franchise. I think that it plays on nostalgia in all the right ways. I think there's a lot of little Easter eggs, little hints here and there of things before that makes this feel like it's a nice side story in the Ripley universe, while also by the end sort of feeling like, oh, maybe we're off on our own and we can build off of this as well. But it is more of a traditional Alien film than it is a Prometheus or a Covenant, which me personally is what I was looking for. That is an uphill battle, to say the least. I mean, the fact that you're kind of remaking the first Alien, I would say it's like 85% Alien, 15% Aliens, as far as the vibe, which I think is what they were going for. But the fact that he's like, hey, we're gonna tread on very well-worn territory, and for most people, myself included, sacred territory. I mean, this is like hallowed ground, right? Yeah. You can't screw up. You can't just make, for all intents and purposes, like a direct sequel to Alien, and not treat this with the kind of care and love that Fede and the team did. And I was blown away by it. I had a great time with it. Absolutely go see this. Please go see this movie in theaters.
Yeah, please.
This
go
is
see
one
this
of those
movie.
like please get out and support this.
Yeah.
I want to, let's see where we're at. I want to kind of start a little bit about some of the highlights for me. Okay. We can go around the table a little bit here, guys. Mike, did you want to put a score on this bad boy?
I mean,
you don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah, no, it's a rad movie. This is a must go to movie if you're into the Aliens world, right? If like you have a Friday off, you should go see this. It's an 8 or 9 out of 10 for me. This was an awesome movie.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would even not urge people. I mean, if you haven't seen the original Alien, fucking go watch the original Alien. But also, if a group of friends are like, hey, I'm gonna go watch Alien Romulus. Have you ever seen the original ones? And you're like, no, but you guys are go opening weekend. Like, go watch this one.
Definitely.
Yeah, you can go back and rewatch Alien, and you'll be like, oh shit, they referenced this, they referenced that. But like, this is something you can start the franchise with, and you can just be like, oh, I've never seen one of these. I'm gonna start with this one.
I would agree, actually. And there's a lot of stuff that popped into this. I haven't seen Alien in a long time, but I've watched it so many times that I think a lot of the stuff that they like, a lot of the little touches, some of the costume design, some of the things that you kind of see in passing. The Weyland-Yutani logo everywhere. All those things kind of hit on such a fun level for me that now I want to go back and watch Alien 1 again. Yeah. I want to watch Alien Romulus, and then Aliens, and see just how well that fits into this category or into the sort of trilogy, because I think it's really good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's interesting, right? Because I'm sure they've done a lot of pieces of media in between Alien and Aliens, because that is a big time jump. The one that comes to mind is Alien Isolation, which is my touchstone of like, hey, we're going to fill in the gap between Alien and Aliens, trying to do Ridley's daughter, right? Ripley's daughter. Ripley's daughter. Yeah. And that to me is good. It's cool as like a fan fiction idea, but it doesn't really work as like a main feature of like, hey, she's just gonna do the same thing her mom did, pretty much, and she's gonna follow in her footsteps. Like, that seems unbelievable. But the way that they're able to kind of fill in the gaps between Alien and Aliens and kind of have that connective tissue with the first movie, but also have a new group of characters is really compelling to me. And I think it was a smart choice.
I agree, and I think right off the bat, just starting the movie off, you see the production behind it. You see sort of some of the ships. You see the world that they're on, and this is no spoilers. We've seen all these in the trailers if you've watched. And it feels like you are going back. Basically, it feels like you're walking into the colony pre-attack from Aliens, right? LV-426, I want to say. I got that totally wrong. And someone in the comments is like, you dumbass. It's LV-777. That to me, I'm like, okay, we've got something here. And I want to say this. I want to say it, but I want it to sound more positive than I think it's going to sound for a lot of people. In that, I think he approached this much in the same way that they approached The Force Awakens, which is they were like, hey, let's start from a foundation of saying, what do people like about these franchises, right? Well, they don't want it to be a CG fest. They want it to be a small cast of characters. We need to isolate them someplace. 426, did I get it right? LV-426?
I think so. I think that's what you said, right?
I'm a badass.
You got it.
I also love that it's called Acheron. you could tell he was starting from a place of like James Cameron on one shoulder, Ridley Scott on the other shoulder, and both of them were devils saying, "Don't screw this up."
Yes.
The production design, stunning.
Yeah.
I at first I was sort of like, I don't understand why all of the cast is so young. I get it. I'm like, look, it's a horror film. Maybe we want a young, hot cast, you know, out there getting slayed one by one. But I honestly don't even think that was the reasoning behind it. I think, and he's mentioned this. Fede's talked about how it's a little piece of trivia. He was like, hey, you know, actually, when I watched the first Alien or Aliens, I imagined what the kids were like running around that colony. I guess there was some deleted scenes in Aliens where there was like kids running around, and I think I have seen this version. If you watch the extended version, you could see LV-426 before it's attacked.
Oh, wow.
Which was a terrible idea. That's why they cut it out. But it's cool to see. And he goes, I wanted to know what those kids were like when they got a little bit older, and then I thought how crazy would it be if they had to deal with this situation. And to me, I'm like, that makes a lot more sense. That to me is a really great foundation for why you've just got just these hot kids, you know, running around a space station getting murdered by xenomorphs.
How old is Ripley, and I guess Ripley specifically, in the original movie? How old is she supposed to be?
I always clocked her as like early to mid 30s.
Okay, yeah, me
but
too.
supposedly she was 29 when she made that film.
Okay, that makes right.
So they're actually not too much older than the cast of this film. I think the cast of this film was largely mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
I think she was probably about 30 or 31 when the film came out, if I had to guess based on what my quick anecdotal evidence. Paul Reiser, I think, was like 32. You know, but it was just, the problem was it was the 80s.
Yeah,
and
so
everyone smoked and nobody fixed their teeth. So everyone just looked way older.
And also, yeah,
they all rode hard.
And also for me, I watched this later, so I see like the older Sigourney Weaver,
Yes.
like through the younger version, if that makes sense.
You're
right?
seeing Avatar Sigourney
yeah, exactly,
Weaver, right?
yeah.
She's well into
that was
her
a funny
50s.
moment when I was watching the first one. I looked over to Lance, I'm like, she's an Avatar. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, she's the blue one.
She is. Well, and you know, but to dial it back a little bit, we can talk about the cast a little now as well. I thought the person that stole the show from me was David Johnson, the guy from Industry. He played Andy, the android.
Yeah.
Great character, and again, a perfect analogy for why the Alien franchise is great. And I don't want to spoil too much about what happens with him, but there's some visuals you can see in the trailer alone that are like so incredibly off-putting.
Yes.
That it's worth it alone to see that. You actually, Mike, before I talk about the cast, one of you touched on the fact that this was like super duper scary. I didn't feel like it was super scary.
Really?
I felt like it was freaky. Is the word I'd use for it. I didn't feel like Fede is really good at creating tension. I felt the fear from tension, not necessarily the fear from like jump scares, which I think is actually good. This is more of a nightmarish adventure than I think it is a traditional horror film. So I do think it really truly is that blend of Alien and Alien.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I got from watching the first. I mean, it's so hard to gauge, right? Because for me, xenomorphs have always been there, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I've seen a xenomorph before I watched any Alien movie. I've known about these things for forever. But at least the vibe for the original Alien is that feeling of, oh shit, like this is something that
It's a horror movie.
we have never seen before, like something that is like truly our brains cannot handle, because it's like aliens are not just these little green people. Like these can be these grotesque monsters. And eventually where we get into this movie, you get that feeling again. You get that feeling, which what I imagine after before the Alamo showing of the original Alien of the 40th anniversary of Alien, they showed it's an incredible, you guys should look this up, of an incredible news piece of interviewing parents walking out of Alien with their kids and
idea.
asking like, what do they feel about this? And like, you can tell they're not scared, they're just extraordinarily disturbed, and they just can't really understand what they just saw in their eyes. And that was the feeling that I felt afterwards. It was like, oh no, this is I wouldn't say like screaming in this theater, but I'm just like, oh, and I'm looking over at you guys. I'm like, are you guys feeling the same way that I'm feeling? Because this is unreal right now.
Yeah, this is not like Hereditary or Conjuring levels of like, we're just going to make you sit in a dark room with the camera real close to someone. Oh, there is a lot of that in this. But, you know, they use the traditional techniques of claustrophobia, silence, darkness, and jump scares to keep that tense feeling in your belly. Fede does that a little bit in this, but I think it's more mysterious and it's more... I actually really like the vibe of this, because I don't know that I was up for sitting in a IMAX theater with just 2 people or 3 people by ourselves and being scared out of my wits for an hour and 45 minutes or however long this movie was. Yeah. But I agree, that was good. You know what, guys?
Yeah.
Before we go on, why don't we take a break to hear from our sponsors?
This episode is brought to you by Monster Hunter Now. There's never been a better time to jump in and play Monster Hunter Now. The game allows you to embark on a global quest in the real world to track down and hunt monsters from the Monster Hunter universe with your friends. For a limited time, earn a powerful Mr. Beast sword and shield, the perfect starter weapon for new hunters via the Mr. Beast quest line. Check this out.
Late for work. Then Monster Hunter. Now. Boring date. Then Monster Hunters. Now. Then. Now. Then. No. Then. No. Then.
Not now.
Then. Now. Monster Hunter Now. Hunt anywhere.
Download Monster Hunter Now by scanning this QR code or going to kindafunny.com/Monster Hunter Now. Again, go to kindafunny.com/Monster Hunter Now to get Monster Hunter Now.
So I want to give a shout out to the cast of this. I think they read to me as touches of other cast members. We see touches of obviously Ripley with the main character Rain here, and I think it's very interesting because I think one of the things that is obviously a hallmark of the Alien franchise, at least actually in some of the Predator franchises, is that strong sort of Ripley-esque protagonist. Yeah. And it's got to be so hard if you're a new actor coming into this and being like, well, how am I not going to get compared to
big shoes to fill? Yeah,
the Sigourney Weaver? And I think and I hope I'm saying her name correctly, Kaylee Spaney. I think she did a great job. I don't know her. I haven't seen her in anything because the only two movies I can pull from were Civil War, which I haven't seen, and she was Priscilla in that I think it was an A24 Priscilla movie. So I was not familiar with her at all. Recognized her. I know the other actor that played Dora the Explorer. Yeah. I know she's from that. But man, this cast and crew they gelled, and she did a great job. And it's so hard to do a nuanced, like, actual, not one-dimensional performance with what could have been a very cookie-cutter film. But I think the fact that they gave her the Andy character to play off of, and to have those two have that dynamic that is a very complex dynamic throughout the entire movie, I think that gave her a lot to go off of, and I think she does a great job. It's similar to Noomi Rapace, which we liked from Covenant or from Prometheus. I thought she did a great job too. Yeah. What are your guys' thoughts on overall just casting?
No, I thought it was very smart the way that they built this team, right? Because I think it's easy enough for them to just be like, they're just a bunch of ragtag, random people that come together and have to do a mission in space. But very quickly, they establish, okay, they know each other because of this. Right. Here's just enough to get to know them and have the connections from the main character, because it's mostly the main character and their brother, essentially. That is the core of this movie, and then everyone else kind of breaks off of from that. So it was smart to have that connection and not just make them random people that they're just doing a job. Like, they know each other. They've been friends for a while, and that to me was, we're in for something good. Like, they did not just think about, we're just gonna make Alien again. We're going to do something special that is interesting, that is feeding off of, hey, the corporation sucks. Like, these are kids on this awful place that want to get out. They're going to do some dumb shit because here's the justification. They're 20 somethings and they're hot and they need to get out of this planet because they need to be they need to see sunlight for once in their life.
Let me see the sunlight.
Like I will do desperate things to see the sunlight normally. So imagine if I had no option and I'm like, I'm gonna steal a spaceship or whatever. I'm gonna figure that out. So that was a smart decision, and they gave just enough justification for it, right? Like, it wasn't too much. It wasn't like, hey, we're gonna have the backstory with everybody. And I know some people want that and desire that, but if we really want to, you can have other pieces of material that show prequels and books and whatever.
Well, there's a piece of trivia that I'll paraphrase right now, where basically Ridley Scott was like, I watched the film, and Fede asked for notes, and he goes, I quietly wrote some down and gave them to him, and he processed them in his own way, but came back and said, those are good notes. I will take them to heart. And one of which was, it's too long. You have too much stuff in here. You have too much going on. Like, this movie. And I think I apologize. I don't have the runtime in front of me, but I think it was perfectly paced.
2 hours, I believe. Pretty
Any
solid,
longer than that, and I think we would have started getting into sort of the Prometheus territory
which I haven't seen.
It meanders too much. Well, Prometheus is an interesting movie it tackles a lot. It introduces the concept of who the race was that made the xenomorphs. It sort of touches on some very, very heady, high level philosophy of creation and man and us confronting our creators by proxy of confronting these people who have made this thing. It introduces this black goo, which, you know, was introduced there and was seen in Covenant, and probably, I don't know if it was in Isolation. I didn't play that. Probably wasn't, because I think Isolation came out before Prometheus. But, you know, it's very sort of wide, and I think this movie allows the viewer to go like, hey, I see touches of that, but we're not going to beat you over the head with it. Well, what this movie really is, at the end of the day, is a group of people going to a place they shouldn't be going to, which is stunning, by the way. The fact that that's the space station, and they're up in this, and they're floating, and it's such a cool environment, because you're like, the planet's just right there, we just can't get to it. That's always so anxiety inducing. But the fact that they chose to say, like, this is the core of the story, this is what we're building off of, we're gonna have a little action, you might get a little pulse rifle sound here and there that we saw in the trailer, you know, that's it, and then bada bing, bada boom, you're out. I think that was fantastic. Before we go, I want to touch on, I'm going to say this, I'll say it delicately. There's one criticism I have of this film that keeps it from being a 10. Okay. And you'll know it when you see it. You'll know it when it's an element in the film that I think was a poor choice personally. And it's unfortunate, but even that did not, I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but
I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
There were some choices made with CG that I just think we should just not do. Yeah. And tended to take me out of the film just a little bit. But overall, the film was so good that I just powered through that, and we got through that moment. It was unfortunate.
That's rough. Yeah, again, I don't want to go into details, but there was some, originally when they start doing that shot,
I was like,
they start doing it in a way that they don't show the CGI. Yeah. Like, it's just like from kind of like, it's like pretty respectful. It's like, oh, they're not going to do it. And then they did it. And I'm like, you didn't need to do that. And it's like not lit the right way. So then you can see the deep fakeness of it all. And it just
didn't work.
It's rough. So yeah, no, it did take me out a little bit, but the movie's just so good. Everything around it, that is my biggest criticism. I'm interested to see how that plays again, watching it the second time.
I think and that's the thing, I think for most people, they'll be fine. Yeah. I think if you're a hardcore, you'll analyze the elements of this film that are in there. You're going to analyze those a little bit more than others. But I think if you're a person who's like, this is my first Alien film ever, I think you're going to go through and be like, interesting, that was weird, but I guess it worked, and you're going to move right along.
Yeah, no, I think the biggest criticism, as you're already seeing with the reviews right now for this movie, is just, it's Alien again, right? Like, and I understand that criticism, and I think that is a very 2024 criticism, because we've seen so much of the same shit over and over and over. But to me, this just feels so much more elevated than A Force Awakens, even, or any of the. It feels like, hey, we're taking the, because here's the thing about Alien, right? And I think you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like the general consensus and the idea and like the we've strayed so far from Alien 1. We've strayed so far as like a society, and the way that we think about Alien, that a lot of people think Alien versus Predator. A lot of people think about the more action heavy Aliens. So I think we needed to go back fully to make this a horror movie.
I think this movie feels like a really, really cool, like, one-off comic book run for like a side story for a main story that you read and you go, that's a really good side story. Yeah. And you think about it and you go, no, I'd like more of that. I want more of that.
Yeah.
Because I think this movie ends, and it could end, and you could be ready to rock and roll, or you could tell me more of this, and I think I'd like to see that. You could build off that world, but I'm not going to be mad if this hits, it works, and we just tell a completely different story in this universe. I've obviously pushed for some sort of Blade Runner Aliens crossover, but they're never going to do that, because they only want to give us the Predator Alien crossovers, which is fine. Whatever, they're fine. But
we're very much exactly in the Force Awakens moment right now, guys, where it's like, this ends, and everyone's going to be like, this is great, either amazing to really good, and then the next one is going to be the one where like, they're going to go off the rails. They're going to make something that is distinctly their own. And I hope that, one, this movie does well, so we do it. And then two, that they actually go balls to the wall and they make their own thing.
It would be cool. Cool. I could also see them. I would also give them props for just being like, this is it. This is the one-off. We're done.
Fox ain't going to do it. Disney's not going to do that. Well, it's not Fox
anymore. That was also the interesting thing, is seeing the 20th Century logo, but not 20th Century Fox logo on that. That was pretty cool.
Let me give you a couple of super chats before we go.
Give me some super chats. Yeah, Mike.
We have Nick S. writing in with a $5 super chat and says, Dan Trachtenberg who made Prey, is making another Predator movie, would you trust Fede to make another Alien movie?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's easy.
He did a great job with this, and even, I mean, if for nothing else, you could watch this movie on with the sound muted, and you'd be riveted the entire time because everything's stunning.
Yeah,
it's stunning.
So good. And then, of course, we got the super chats to end this out from Solo Games and Joshua. The audience wants you to do a whole franchise, Alien/Predator in review, please. And then Joshua writes, Alien and Predator in review when the people demand it, Nick Scarpino.
Tim, Greg, they're not here. You can finally do it.
Now.
Oh, okay, guys. So here's where I'll go. Here's what I'll say. No, honestly, we know, guys. We know. I want to do Aliens badly. I want to do Predator badly. I want to do all of them badly. I want to do every single movie I grew up with badly. But you gotta work it in the schedule. And Tim is the one with the master plan. We default to him.
Master.
So when he always says we're gonna do it, and we will do Aliens one of these days.
There's a lot of movies though. I think people forget about that. They say the Aliens, but you got to redo everything. You got to do every Alien, Predator, everything.
I mean, we'd have to go. That's the question.
You got to play Alien Isolation.
Then you get into the question of like, I mean, then you get in the question of like, do you go chronologically? Do you go in release order?
Yeah.
What do you do? How do you do this? And probably we'd go in release
and you got to
order.
add, Freddy versus Jason in there too somehow. You know
well,
what
they
I
were
mean?
in space. Yeah,
They were in space. I watched that
There's
one.
a lot of verses going on here.
we will do it one day. I promise. That is my promise, my solemn promise to everyone out there. We will do the Alien franchise. We will do the Predator franchise. And hey, at some point, let's throw in Beverly Hills Cop and Die Hard into that as well. People are asking for Blade Runner. Oh no, Tyler's just saying Blade Runner also takes place in the Alien universe. I know, that's what I just said. It's did you know that?
No, I didn't actually.
Did you know that there is an Alien Blade Runner? They're in the same universe.
That's cool.
If you watch, I believe it's Blade Runner 2040. Actually, I think it might be in the first one, but if you watch Blade Runner 2049, and there's one shot where he's flying over the big seawall, and up in the sky, like way up in the sky, is a ship that looks a lot like the Sulaco, which is the ship from Aliens. And so apparently the Weyland-Yutani Corporation is another competing corporation with, I'm forgetting the two corporations that are from Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2.
It's the Blade Runner is the Weyland Corporation, which the idea is it gets bought by Yutani.
By Yutani, okay.
And it becomes the Weyland Yutani, and the logos get merged.
Who is the, it's Wallace. Wallace is the one in Blade Runner 2049, right? That's Jared Leto. Because at some point, Weyland goes out of business. You're right, gets bought by Yutani, and then Jared Leto's company. Anyway, there's a whole backstory to it, but it's very cool. And then someone also was mentioning Soldier was in that as well. Yeah, Soldier is another movie in the franchise. We have to do all these movies.
Yeah. And E.T. is in Star Wars. Don't forget about that.
If you're technically going to do Aliens.
Yeah.
Tyrell Corporation, that's what we're looking for. Thank you, Nick Stanford. Tyrell was the first one that went out of business. Yes, Tyrell is the original corporation. I think Weyland-Yutani's always been Alien. We're getting this all wrong now, guys. We're going to end this. Thank you so much for joining us. Let us know in the comments below if you got a chance to see Alien Romulus. What did you think? What are the corporations from Blade Runner and Alien? Put those in the chat, and we'll pin those. We'll pin those to the top of the YouTube comment, so I can take a look at this 2 years from now when the next one comes out and get that correct. Mike, Roger, thank you guys so much for joining us. Everyone, please go to theaters. Spend the money and watch this movie this weekend. Let's make this a big opening weekend. We need more of this, just like we got Dune and just like I wanted Blade Runner 2049. Until next time, I've been Nick Scarpino, and you have been great. We'll see you on the next one.